Tapu, assalamu alaikum, namaste, haru nefer. This is Qesankh Keperu with another exciting video for you. And I am reporting from Colombia, and today I'm going to talk about why you're not a success. But first, I want you to hit the like button. If this is your first time to my channel, hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. If you're interested in knowing more about my spiritual teachings, you can scroll down below and click on any one of the 4 ebooks. Download them today. They're free, and you can start reading them. If you want to follow that rabbit hole down the rabbit, if you want to follow the rabbit hole down the rabbit, and see how deep that hole goes, you can become a Patreon supporter for as little as $1, $5, or $20 a month. You'll get exclusive access to instructional videos, videos on the esoteric, videos on the spiritual. It'll show you how to meditate, proper breathing exercises, videos that will teach you how to invoke the ancestors, how to contact your spirit guides, how to astral project, how to do self-hypnosis so you can curb your habits, negative habits. Lastly, if you're a Nasir level supporter, you'll get all your Oracle readings for free. So become a Patreon supporter today. And of course, share this video with family and friends so that we can start the revolution. I had a really great joke I was going to tell. This is why I was pausing a lot. And I was like, because I accidentally said it to, I think it was one of the clerks at the airport. And I don't know what the discussion was, but I was, she was giving me directions and said, pass this thing called the hole. I said, well, I always have problems finding the hole. So I don't know, I may need deeper instructions. And I stopped and I thought about what I had said, because I said it kind of like innocently. I was trying to convey that, funny enough, I'm not good at directions, but I've become very good at them now. So, I was able to find what I needed to. So it was just hilarious. And I was thinking about that when I was saying the rabbit down the rabbit hole. And I was like, no, let me not tell that joke. It's not appropriate, But anyway, Haru nefer, Hetepu, Grand Rising, here in Cartagena, Colombia. And I arrived yesterday. I did a video for you, but it had some problems. I think had to be taken down from YouTube. And I talked about just like getting here and the people and learning the language and everything. So one of the things I talked about was I was going to try and go to a different country every month. So starting in January, I believe I will come back to Colombia. February will be Brazil. And then we're going to do the Dominican Republic, China, and Philippines, Thailand, and some other countries. And I'll be doing video blogs from those different countries. And I'll also do blogs where I'm walking around and you'll be able to see the country and not just inside of a hotel room. But the one thing I noticed when I got here, it's not a big deal. I just got like very thirsty. So I had to make sure I had a lot of water with me, And the one thing I kind of knew of, I didn't really prepare for, was this is the wrong country if you're a vegetarian or a vegan. You can forget that. Everything. I went to the hotel restaurant and tried to get rice and beans. So like, you got rice and beans, I'm good. They're like, no, we've got rice and fish. Like, I'm not eating that fish. I just want the rice and the beans. So, if I go to Mexico, we'll be inundated with rice and beans, you know what I mean? But I wanted to go into the details and talk a little bit about success, because that was on my mind today. Because when you look at Colombia and you look at places like Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina, you have to understand something that, and one of my favorite, I've said this before, characters in movies is Gordon Gekko from Wall Street, and his famous saying is "greed is good," and that kind of, for me, exemplifies not the American sentiment, but the sentiment among ADOS, FBA, freedmen people, and I mean African Americans, because they have done the studies to show that we are people who consume a lot of mainstream media, and there are points where we don't know what we're seeing is really concocted by the ruling elite. So we take it for real. So we tend to emulate these things. Hence, you'll see the wannabe guys the rappers on the street with the gold chains and trying to be delivering that, they're just flossing. They're trying to pretend to be something they're not. And the same with the women. And a lot of things that we see with the immigration, people coming to the States and doing jobs that a lot of African Americans wouldn't want to do because they're very low paying. But the thing that I really want to talk about is when I was growing up, my parents never had the discussion with me on success and what that means for a person of color, because it means something totally different from a person who's white. And I have seen, and I'm going to be honest with you, I have seen mediocre white people get by in life with so much given to them. And I'm going to touch this topic for you, especially with white girls. For those of you listening, you live in a different type of world, you see, because the world, or America, caters to you because you're at the top of the totem pole. This is why you'll see a lot of white girls that smile a lot, have giggly friends, and they just have this type of lifestyle. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying anything is wrong with it, but compared to a woman of color who has gone through hardships, it's a very, very different story. You know what I mean? And I was equating this to an actress who I saw is in Italy now. And she's just a very, very like low level, but she's getting these opportunities to travel and do things. Meanwhile, a Black actress on her level wouldn't get those opportunities at all, even though she has more talent. So when I look here in Colombia and I see the amount of people who are really hustling on a day-to-day just to get a little bit of money. I mean, when I get off the airport, everybody wanted to give me a taxi ride. And I said, no, I have people coming to pick me up. And they were really aggressive. Your parents don't tell you that you can do all the things right in society, especially if you are a man of color, and you still not be a success. Because the system is constructed to be against you if you're a person of color. Specifically, let's say African American. The global system has been geared to be against any country of color, which is why white males have gone throughout the globe raping and pillaging and subjugating every country of color. King Leopold, you can read about the horrors he did in the Congo. I mean, we're not, so I want you to understand that you can do everything right, but there is a system that's specifically constructed to hold you back. Now, you can make that worse than what it already is by giving your child a name of Laquita or Lashavita, whatever, or Laquanya or Latafi, which screams ghetto. I'm not saying you should call your child Mary, Dick. You don't have to do that. But the bottom line is what I'm saying is that if you want to be a success, yes, it's possible. And especially in the United States of America, more so than any other country. but you're going to have to bust your butt. And you're not going to be able to look at, which the I Ching, the Chinese oracle, has told me a million times, you're not going to be able to look at other people and compare yourself to them because it's different. I hung around with a buddy of mine who's Jewish, and I told people the story a million times. He helped me on my feature film Bugged. He went off to California, asked me to come and be his roommate, and I said no. Next thing I know, he is one of the top directors. Guardians of the Galaxy, Scooby-Doo, he's doing all these films. And years ago, I got a little bit perturbed by that. I'm like, how did he get that success? And then a friend told me, he says, well, he's connected and he has a family that's connected into the industry. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, but also I had to understand that the rules are different for people of color. Now, I don't want you to use that as an excuse to stop. Heck no. This is why I highly promote magic, because it evens the playing field. And I even wondered, because when I travel to different countries, I can see how people of color are impoverished. That's a consistent thing. And I'm wondering if there's a type of global egregore or pendulum that fosters that. I don't think there's any wondering. There probably definitely is. You see, we don't understand occult principles and why certain oligarchies are successful, because they work with certain pendulums to make them a success. And we are prevented from achieving that high level of success because the pendulum, let's call it racism, wants to stop us. That's its job. That's why it was created. Not only wants to stop, and don't be so egocentric to think because you're a Black person in America that it's only out to get you. It's working on a global level to stop nations of color. And it's the most difficult thing to fight is an unseen force. It's easy to fight when you know who your enemy is. In Wall Street, Gordon Gekko's enemy, what he thought was his friend, or not really his friend, but his protege, somebody he was crafting, helping to be like him. And that person actually destroyed him. And for good reason, too. Gordon Gekko was an evil, greedy person. So I want you to understand, no matter what you're seeking to do or accomplish, there are going to be unseen obstacles that are going to pull you down. I remember when the first priestess told me about this, that this would be something happening in my life. And I was like, how can I fight something I can't see? How can I deal with something? She says, well, you can understand its rules and don't feed it. And what we have now going on in the United States is a bunch of people who are deluded by fame and fortune. I never wanted to be Elon Musk or, riches on that level. I said, hey, listen, if I can just do something that allows me to be an artist that I want to be and have a decent living, I'm happy. But everybody out there seems to just want to be rich, the center of attention. And they all talk about how many haters they have. It's actually disgusting when you look at the global community and how many people are really hustling just to get by to the next day. And we have so much abundance in the States. I want you just to think about that. Now, in dealing with this ergobore, and I'm going to give an example here. I fell into an ergobore, a tech ergobore, or a tech pendulum. So what does that mean? So that means that everywhere I turned, I was afforded opportunities in the tech industry. But then when I looked deeper into that, the priestess who I was working with, she told me the reason that these opportunities are happening to you is also due to the fact that you come from Atlantis, which is a highly advanced civilization. So you're naturally going to gravitate toward tech. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. That's true, true. And when you mix in the fact that you have an ergobore who assists you with that, then you can have success in that if you want. Versus if you don't fall under the favor of an ergobore who wants you to have a hit record or be a rapper, you're not going to be a rapper. The ergobore is going to do everything it can even cause you death to prevent you from being a rapper. That's his job, to stop you. But if you fall under an ergobore who makes people rich, you can assure that no matter what the hell you do, you're going to come into a lot of money. That's just how it works. And right now, the planet is under the guise of this racism, white supremacy ergobore that is out to destroy people of color on a global level. You understand? And if we as people of color were to get our butts together and value our traditional religions, the Santeria, the Kemetic religion, Yoruba, and if we practiced it in the right way, we could kick ass. You see, the reason, one of the reasons why a Christian church is successful with these mega churches is because they're under the guise of a religious ergobore, pendulum, and it's going to foster success for those pastors. And we have failed in a sense, and I talked about this in my previous video, how these missionaries come to these countries and they see the people who are starving and impoverished caused by colonialism. And they say, if you follow Jesus, your life will be full of abundance. And they're like, why not? I tried everything else. And then the missionaries give them food, and they think Jesus did that. And then they begin the process of indoctrinating them into Christianity. So they did with the Native Americans. They forced them. And when the Native Americans would not agree to it, they burned them at the stake. In the transatlantic slave trade, when you were brought to the New World, if you didn't adopt to, Southern Baptist or Christianity, you were beaten. Now, how hypocritical is that of people enslaving another people, yet preaching about doing good, being righteous through the Bible? How hypocritical is that? So I want you to keep in mind that your success is not by following a cookie cutter system. It doesn't work. I remember when I was many years ago, I read Spike Lee's book. And I said, I'm going to do everything he did as a filmmaker and I'll achieve the same success. It didn't work because he has a different destiny than I do. You understand? If he started to try and get into occult secrets, the ergobore would cut him off, close the door to him. So keep that in mind. Some people have a love ergobore, that they move from one relationship to another, but they're always in a relationship. There are some people who are a lone wolf, or under the guise of a lone wolf ergobore, where they just can't seem to find a mate. And one of my last days as a priest in the temple, I had lunch with one of the high priest, the elder. And he had said to me that your success as a priest is going to be It's going to depend on your ability to see, to look at the person and see beyond the person and see the forces that are governing them. Therefore, you could look at someone and tell just by the way they look if they have an STD. You can look at someone and tell if they are lacking in yang energy, which is why they're not successful in their career. I was like, well, that's going to be difficult to do, but not as difficult as I thought. So this is why Ra'u Nefer created the Meduna Tear, which specifically goes over the shaping factors of your success, not success of everybody out there, not the cookie cutter system success, but your success. You have these Spanish tutorial books and audio lessons, and I said that's not wouldn't work for me, because that's not how I learn. You put me in the culture and I'll be speaking, the language in no time. So we have to think about the rules being a bit different for us, understanding how to play that game, understanding how to maneuver. And I remember reading this book where it asks, if you died today, what is the one thing you would regret? And I remember thinking that I should have stood up more to the system. I should have fought the system more. And then from that point, that day, I started to. I said, I'm not going to leave this planet and not give them hell on earth for creating a world that is unjust or unjust. So think about that. If you tap into the right sources, your life could be full of abundance. It doesn't have to be full of pain, sorrow, family strife, economic problems. It doesn't have to be all that. Tap into the right sources. But remember, there will always be, as the I Ching says, the 66 hexagram, which is limitation. There may be limitations placed upon you. What do I mean by that? Well, you have a kid in Ethiopia who's starving. Unfortunately, Nectar wanted to experience what it will be like to be born in Ethiopia and not have enough resources. Nectar chose to experience that. That's that child's destiny. That's not because the child didn't believe in Jesus or their family didn't believe in Jesus. It was just a specific way that God wanted to experience this fourth dimensional plane. Let's say, for example, in Spike Lee's case, God Nectar wanted to experience what it would be like to be one of the first Black filmmakers out there. So think about that. And some of your greatest enemies are in mainstream media. And they need to be like ostracized or closed off as much as possible, because they're presenting to us a false picture of reality that you can achieve that type of success. When in reality, they were specifically picked for their job and an agreement made between them and the Illuminati to be successful. And though they try to hit you with that, if you work hard, if you're creative, someone will eventually notice you, which is BS. They were specifically selected to give the illusion of freedom. Just like our two-party voting system, two parties, both bad, but you have the illusion of a choice. You don't have a choice, actually. You know what I mean? But again, don't want to sound pessimistic. When you start getting back into your traditional religion and you start protecting it and you start proselytizing it, If necessary, if that's your mission, go to every country and start teaching about Oseir, teaching about Aset. You'll find that maybe doors will start to open for you. You understand? Doors that have not opened for anybody else. But this is something we all need to do because see, your goal is not to try and fix the system. You can't fix a system that is rotten to the core. Your goal is to say, look, just bring it down as quickly as possible so we can start to rebuild. You understand? You can't negotiate with criminals. You can't negotiate with murderers and thieves. Because if you could, the system would have been changed a long time ago. You need to go to the president, whatever president is in office, and say, look, we're tired of this crap. We're tired of you every president getting into the office and supporting racism. We're tired of it. We want to take this thing down. We're tired of you pimp pastor ministers taking this money, buying 3 or 4 homes and private jets. But we've become complacent. And we're okay with all this because we want to take part in it. That's what it is. We want a slice of that pie. I say, keep the pie in the oven and let it burn. Because I'm going to find new ways to do things. I'm not going to follow in the footsteps of corrupt people. Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, they're all corrupt. Don't idolize these individuals. They're not from the hood. They're not from the streets. They give off that persona so you can identify with them and buy their stuff, but they're not. But above all, be a spiritual person, and that spiritual or religion should reflect who you are now and who your ancestors were. It should not be co-opted from another people. So I'm gonna make some more videos on this, but I want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Nikki. Yes, I miss you. Where have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. Don't forget to donate to the channel. This is Qesankh Ma'Keperu Tehuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Hedaru, who's the goddess of joy. Until the next video, Amun Ra.